Hello, welcome to Felix's Space Time. In today's video, we have an interview with Loren Grush, a senior space reporter at The Verge. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my Patreon page. There'll be a link in the description. Enjoy. Thank you so much for coming on here for an interview. Can you tell everyone a bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Loren Grush. I'm the senior science reporter at The Verge, which is a tech and culture website. And specifically, I cover all things space for them. So that includes NASA, the commercial space industry, and, distant black holes, exoplanets, all sorts of astronomical wonders that you might imagine.
All right, okay. Is it quite a good job? Do you enjoy what you do?
Yes, I absolutely love what I do. And I'm sure, as you know, the space beat is a very vibrant one. There's things constantly happening at all times. So I'm definitely never bored. In fact, I'm starting to wonder if I can handle it all sometimes because there are just new companies popping up everywhere. SpaceX is always doing something new. NASA is always doing something new. And then we find some new black hole or something like that. And I have to cover that as well. So it's definitely, I like to say it's 10 beats in one because there's so many different avenues to explore within the space world.
All right, okay. What is it like working for The Verge? What kind of things do you have to do?
So working for The Verge is very fun because I get to explore different ways of storytelling. So for instance, I'm primarily a print writer. So though we don't actually print on paper, we are fully online, but I am constantly writing news posts or reports where I interview people and get their perspective on the space industry. And then I post those stories. But the great thing about The Verge is we also tell stories through video, which I really love to do. So we'll do a lot of video stories where we go out and travel and really sink our teeth into a story or a location that we're in. Or we do podcasts. So I was just on the Vergecast, for instance, where we do audio stories. So we have a wide range of platforms that we can use to tell different stories about space. And that's one thing I really love about working at The Verge is because there's always some new way to tell stories about the space industry or NASA.
All right, okay, wow. To people who are watching, I'll leave a link to The Verge in the description.
Yeah, that'd be great.
What kind of things do you have to do on a day-to-day basis when working for The Verge?
Sure. So, when I wake up, basically I log into Twitter and I check to see what may have happened overnight. But most of all, it's really, I'll kind of come up with a list of topics or events that I know are going to be happening that week. Usually NASA has something going on, or they'll have some press conference that they'll schedule. And if that happens, I usually log into that. But yeah, I have a whole calendar of events that are space related that I stick to. And then other times you just have to be ready for breaking news. So a great example of that is when Russia destroyed its own satellite recently. And we all had to kind of drop whatever we were doing that Monday and figure out what had happened. And I don't know if you remember, but the astronauts on the International Space Station also had to shelter in place. So that was just a day of figuring out the facts, right? So I had to reach out to Russia, even though they did not respond to me, had to reach out to NASA, had to get a statement from the State Department. It was a very long day of just kind of discerning what had happened. And so that's a really good example of a breaking news event. And they don't happen very often, but they do happen, and they keep you on your toes. So it's a mixture of, those kinds of events that happen very suddenly, news events and that I know are going to happen, and then longer term reports and analysis of explaining to the public, what does this event mean? So a lot of the people don't really follow space. And so my goal is to make them feel like that space is accessible to them and explaining it in a way that they'll understand.
Okay, sounds like a really interesting job. How did you get interested in space and space flight?
Sure. So, a little bit about my background. My parents both worked at NASA's Johnson Space Center as engineers. They both worked on the shuttle program for most of their careers. And so I actually grew up in the space environment. In fact, where I lived in a small town outside of Houston called Friendswood. And everybody there had parents who worked for the space program. So it was definitely ingrained in our lives from an early age. But I actually, when I grew up, I thought everybody's parents was some kind of space engineer. It wasn't until I moved away from Houston that I realized that it was actually not the case. And it was actually a very special job for people to have. And so as a child, I didn't quite grasp, how cool it was until I left later. But that was my early interest in space. And then, I went to college and I decided I liked storytelling and being creative more so than actually doing engineering or some kind of STEM field. But then when I started to pitch stories and find stories to write about, I realized that I really enjoyed writing about space. And I think that, relates back to my early childhood. And so that's I've come full circle now with my job at the Verge.
Right, okay, wow. Have you watched any rocket launches? And if so, which ones were your favorite ones?
Sure. I think I've watched about a dozen rocket launches with my own two eyes now. And I saw a shuttle launch in college, which I thought was absolutely spectacular. There's just nothing like it. And I'm actually really sad that we'll never get to see one again because it really is a truly amazing sight. But I've been to plenty of launches at the Cape and a few at Vandenberg, I guess one at Vandenberg, but I didn't actually see that one because the fog was too thick. So it was at night. So unfortunately, I had missed that one. But I think one of my favorite ones I saw at the Cape was a nighttime launch of the Falcon Heavy. And I don't know if you've ever been to a nighttime launch, but they're just absolutely spectacular. The lights and the colors that they produce, it's a truly amazing sight. So I would recommend you and your viewers to attend one if at all possible.
Yeah. Are there any rocket launches that you'd like to watch, like Starship?
Oh, absolutely. Starship, the Space Launch System is supposed to launch next year. I've been covering that particular rocket for many years, so I'm very eager to see it actually fly. Definitely want to go see Starship. I live in Texas now. I used to be in New York, but I'm in Austin. And so I'm actually very close to the launch site, so it wouldn't take me very long to get down there. So I'm very eager to see that one fly as well.
All right, okay, wow. Are you excited for the James Webb Space Telescope launch, and will you be watching that?
Yes, absolutely. I would say I'm both excited and terrified because, as you know, the telescope is not done when it launches. It has to go through that very complicated unfurling process. And I just hope that it goes well. There's nothing I can do. I wasn't a part of the mission, but I will be watching and taking note. We have a lot of coverage planned for the Verge for that. So I'm definitely excited, scared, and will be eagerly watching through my fingers.
Fingers crossed everything goes well. When do you think humans will go back to the moon?
That's a great question. As you might know, NASA is currently targeting 2025 for that. However, that does not seem to be a very realistic estimate, in my opinion. So I do think it's encouraging that we switched administrations and the moon goal is still very much a target for NASA. Sometimes that can be tough. Here in America, when we switch administrations, things can change. But yes, I'm excited about this. It's the Artemis program to send the first woman and the first person of color to the moon. So I think maybe this decade. I wouldn't say 2025, but I am optimistic that we are doing all of the things necessary to make it happen again.
Right, okay. When do you think humans will go to Mars? And do you think it will be by NASA or SpaceX or a different company?
Well, that is also a great question. I do not believe it will be this decade, just because going to Mars is such a very complicated stunt that we're going to have to pull off. And many of the technologies that we need to keep people alive on Mars, we have not tested them. We have not really I don't even know if some of them are invented yet. You know, it's going to be a very daunting task to send people to Mars. And while we are definitely trending in the right direction towards transportation, the infrastructure that we need to keep people alive on the surface, I'm not sure we're there. We're going to get there this decade. Now, in terms of who will take us there, I think it's going to have to be a very big collaborative effort. So I don't think SpaceX can do it alone. I don't think NASA can do it alone. I think it's going to have to be an international collaboration that puts together multiple companies, multiple space agencies. It's going to be one of the most audacious things that we ever do as a species. And that's going to require helping hands all over the world. So I think it's going to have to be a very big collaborative effort between multiple entities. And I think SpaceX and NASA will definitely be involved in a big way.
All right, okay. Do you think it could be something like the European Space Agency, where lots of countries and companies come together?
I think absolutely. I think the European Space Agency will have to be involved. Their expertise will be very necessary, just because, like I said, there's so many different tasks to accomplish, right? We have to think about habitats. We have to think about landing. We have to think about life support systems. We have to think about how are they going to eat, and how are they going to fix tasks? There's so many different realms of technology that's going to be touched, that the more people we have trying to solve these problems, the better we will be and the more successful we will be in pulling this off.
All right, okay. What are your plans for the future?
That's a big question. Well, for the immediate future, obviously JWST is on my radar. I think we mentioned the SLS. That's going to be rolling out next year. I really hope to be there for that. Also, Starship is supposed to be launching on its first orbital flight next year, something I definitely really want to see. So in the immediate future, there's plenty to keep me busy. And then, I'm also working on a book. So that is coming out in the next couple of years. I have to finish it, but I'm getting very close. And that book is about the first 6 women astronauts at NASA. So I hope you are interested in that, and we will hopefully be publishing in 2023. And then, I just hope to continue writing stories about space and talking about space. It's really such a fun job, and I love getting to do it. And hopefully I inspire a few people like yourself, maybe, to continue exploring space and to pursue it when they grow up.
All right, okay, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on here for an interview. You had some brilliant answers to my questions. Good luck with everything and with your book. And I'm happy with the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.